The Belfast Giants had an up and down year last season. After being the best team in the league for a number of years, they had their fair share of struggles. They got bit by the injury bug so bad. Elijah Barriga didn't even make it out of the preseason, before suffering a season-ending injury. But key guys like Mark Cooper, Miles Gendron and Greg Prince all missed big time. And most of the team were out at other times. Just to illustrate, in the regular season they dressed 26 skaters. If you include the goalies, make it 29. And they didn't have a single player play all 54 games in the regular season. Despite that, they still managed to be competitive and finish the year third in league standings. The problem they face heading into the 2024-25 season is twofold. Can they stay healthy? And what can they do about the Sheffield Steelers? The answer to both was loud and clear. Get the band back together again. Keefe is back for another year, and he is bringing with him some of the heroes from their trouble-winning season. Let's take a look at the roster they have assembled and discuss what we can expect from them this season. Between the pipes, they have a new starter. Taking over the reins from Beskorowany is former NHL goaltender, Tom McCollum. At 34 years old, McCollum is bringing a ton of experience with him across America and Europe. Just last season he was one of the best goalies in the Del 2, completing the year with 41 regular season games played, and a 92.3 save percentage, and 2.55 goals against average. Solid numbers from a comparable league. In recent years he has performed well in some great leagues, such as the Del and EIHL. Keefe mentioned his hunger and compete level. This is a guy who will fight for pucks. Backstopping him is Jackson Whistle. We know what to expect from him, one of the best backups in the league, and capable of making some save of the year candidates every season. Last year, he was heavily relied on to make 21 regular season appearances, and finished with a 92.57 save percentage. He was the best between the pipes for the Giants last year. Goaltending looks really solid, but looking at the blue line, it has had quite the makeover, with only one guy returning. Let's look at what they have assembled. Let's start with Gabe Bast. He returns after a year away from Belfast, and didn't play much of a season last year. In 2022-23 he put up 18 goals, and 72 points, in 66 games. Whenever you get a defenseman who tops a point per game, you know you have a special player. He was the top defenseman that year as they went on to win the treble. I do wonder if it will take some games to get back to top form, but once he is going, he should be an impact blue liner, leading that power play to success. I have Bo Hansen alongside Bast as the top pair. He carries some good size at 6'2", 205 pounds, and is an excellent two-way defender, and will be relied on to carry a defensive load. Last season in 45 games with Aalborg Pirates in the Danish League, he put up 7 goals, and 27 assists. He is an excellent skater, and has a great shot. He is going to allow Bast to play his game to the full, and this will be a really effective pair. Josh Roach makes his return to Belfast. After struggling with injuries last season, it can be easy to forget how effective a player he is. In his 137 games with the Giants he has put up 17 goals, and 114 points. Keefe pointed to his tenacity, battling back from injury last year, and when he got into the lineup last season, he was around a point per game. He should have a big year with a full healthy season, and will provide that second power play option behind Bast. Paired with him, and completing the top 4, I have Jeff Baum. Roach is a guy that Baum has played with plenty, and they are comfortable together. He took on a bit of a bigger role last year, when injuries hit the team, and he performed well. Can he step up and be a consistent top 4 defender though? Time will tell, but he is a hard-working guy, who has improved every year. Last season, he averaged 19 minutes and 22 seconds of time on ice per game, and managed to amass 19 points. For me, I would prefer Baum on a third pair, with the opportunity to fight his way into the top 4. Zach Galambos will make his pro debut with the Giants this season, but I think he has a lot to offer them. He has put up excellent numbers in the NCAA. In his 4 years in the NCAA, he has 90 points, in 133 games, which for a defenseman is excellent. I could see him moving up, potentially pushing a Baum down, but it can be hard to predict how these young guys adapt to the pros. He needs a strong start to build that confidence. Cameron Pound gets a regular spot on this blue line out of training camp. With the amount of imports signed, he will need to be a constant in this top 6. He was brought in last year out of necessity, but they have brought him back for a reason. He was a steady presence on that blue line. In 41 games he notched 3 goals, and 9 points. Playing 12 minutes and 40 seconds on average. That playing time should come up a bit, and with it, his production too. He closed out with a +12, and I'm excited to see what he can do with a full year. So that's the defensive core. I do worry slightly, when you look at other blue lines in the league like Sheffield. They are counting on Baum and Pound to take big steps, and for Galambos and Bass to be great out the gate. It's risky, but it could pay off. Now let's take a look at this forward group. JJ Piknich returns as their top-line right winger. His performance in this league speaks for itself. He is a goal-scoring machine, posting 43 goals, in just 68 games, last time he wore the teal. Not to mention finishing the season with 98 points. Putting that in perspective. This past season Mitch Balmas led the league in scoring with 90 points in 70 games. Piknich was 8 points better, in 2 fewer games. Not to mention scoring 11 more goals. This guy is a top-line stud, and a game-breaker. Overshadowed only by a centerman. Scott Conway returns to bring the fight to Sheffield. It's fair to say he is one of the best players to play in the modern elite league era. In his time in teal, he has posted 94 goals, and 215 points, in just 135 games. That is around 0.7 goals per game, and nearly 1.6 points per game. He is going to have something to prove this season. Can he bring silverware back to Ireland? These two played together on the same line before, it was magic then, and it will be magic again. Rounding out the top line, I have Grant Mismash. As you will see, this forward group is so deep, I don't think you can really go wrong with where you put the wingers. But I like him on the top line to start the season. He has built-in chemistry with Piknich, having played together last season. He hasn't put up huge numbers through his career, but he has spent a full season in the American League, and produced really solid numbers through juniors. And looking at his season in Norway last year, although he only played 24 games, he actually matched the production of Piknich with 1.38 points per game. Expect him to have a big role. I have Robert Carpenter opening the year on the second line, left wing. He also adds to their center depth. Having a guy who can move to the middle when needed is really key in the top 6. He was the leading scorer with the Florida Everblades, as they won the East Coast Championship last season. Having a proven winner, who can perform at the highest level is such a useful asset. A key stat stands out in his career. 23 points, in 23 playoff games last season. This is a guy who will score the key goal in the big moments. He shoots right, making him one of only 4 forwards that shoot right. It doesn't sound too important, but having options helps. Jordan Kawaguchi is going to be so exciting to watch. And true center, I have him down the middle on the second line. He is an explosive forward, who has performed in the East Coast League, with 83 points in 87 games in his time there. Prior to that he spent the year in the American League, and had a really strong season, in what is a really stacked program in Texas. 25 points in 52 games, which is impressive. He should have a big year offensively. Rounding out the top 6, I have Mark Cooper. I have seen a lot of people putting him on the third line. To me that's a mistake, and one that comes from a short memory. He had a down year last season, as he struggled with injuries, and team inconsistency. But in his 2 years prior with the Giants, this guy put up 144 points, in 134 games. Comfortably above a point per game. He is the captain, and he adds a bit of backbone and grit to the top 6, something I think it really needs. He is going to lead by example, and have a huge bounce-back season. Elijah Barriga returns to the roster, after practically an entire season off due to injury. We got to see him a bit in preseason last year with the Giants, and he looked good, but not enough to say with certainty what he can do in teal. For me he starts on the third line, as he finds his feet getting back into things. But don't be mistaken, he is primed to take a top 6 spot, should the opportunity arise. He is listed as a winger, but we did see him play down the middle all year in Dundee. He is another guy that adds to that depth. He is best on the wing, but it's good to have another option. Paul Morin is another winner. A championship holder, and as Keefe described him, a two-way center, who plays he right way, which is required to win. Morin should be a key part of the Giants' special teams this year, and as one of the older members of the team at 33, should take a real leadership role. He can also bring the offense, with a 46-point season last year in Denmark, and a 40-point season in France the year prior. His all-round game should allow his wingers to do what they do best. namely Kyle Osterberg, who rounds out the top 9 for me. Osterberg finished the season second in scoring for the Fife Flyers. This speaks to the Giants' depth in the forward group, that I have him on the third line. He can play either wing, which will really come in handy, if for example Carpenter has to move to center in the event of injuries. That versatility is key. And he is a guy that could move up into the top 6 without missing a beat. Due to the amount of imports, the Giants are facing the circumstance of needing to play one of the two-way Brits. Which shouldn't be an issue, as they have signed a wealth of forward talent that can play. As it stands, I would expect either Finley Howells or Mason Alderson to play on the left wing. But don't be surprised if we see a few different GB players rotate through this slot. At fourth line center, I have Ben Lake, which just feels ridiculous to say. Given that he was second in points last season for the Giants. When he confirmed his return, Keefe said, "Players who have his tenacity, determination, and attitude are hard to come by. He's been a real all-round player, who's comfortable playing anywhere on the ice." That's a great description of Lake's style, and he is a guy who can still thrive and play a role on the fourth line. Kieran Long has been a staple of this forward group for years, and has always produced, even on the fourth line. He can play defense in a pinch, and play center at times. He brings good size at 6'3", and is a lock for 10 goals a year no problem. What more can you ask from a fourth liner? That leaves Joe Cassetti as the healthy scratch on night 1. That doesn't mean he won't get into games. Injuries, performance, and resting guys will make this decision for them on a game-to-game basis. But the fact is, on night 1, they have too many imports, and will need to bench one. For me, it's Cassetti on day 1. He is a really powerful forward, who will make an impact on the game. He is turning pro this year with the Giants, but has posted some solid numbers in the NCAA. At 6'4", 205 pounds, he is going to play a big role for this team. So that's the roster as we begin the 2024-25 season. For me, they have the best forward group in the league. It's not just the top talent of Conway and Picnic, but it's having Lake on the fourth line. Guys like Barriga and Osterberg not even cracking the top 6. There isn't a line that cannot score at will. In goal, they look solid. McCollum has performed at a high level, in some great leagues. And Whistle has been one of the best backups in recent history. My only concern comes with the blue line. They should have no problem putting up the points. Bast and Roach will get their power play cookies. But for me, Baum is a third line guy. And Pound being a constant in the top 6 at this stage in his career does set them back compared with the Steelers' blue line. They are good defenders, I just think there are some holes there. Picture a situation where either Bast or Hansen gets injured or suspended, suddenly that defensive core looks shaky. For me, I have them finishing second overall. I'm not sure they have quite enough firepower to get over the Steelers, but it's going to be really close all year, and it's a rivalry all the fans deserve. Even if you are not a Giants, Steelers or Devils fan, this is going to be a fun season to watch. But what do you think to this roster? Can they take home any silverware? Let us know what you think in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, take care.